All right. Anyway, let's keep it going on the show. Hit the like button and the sub button, man, as we press on. LSU pumps the brakes on LSU hype train, but can he buy patience after an expensive offseason? Now, this is from CBS. Kiffin downplayed the expectations for a loaded Tigers roster on the first day of spring practice. Of course, he's going to dial it back a bit, but, you know, we all know what time it is, right? So LSU took the field for the first spring practice on Wednesday, and expectations are sky high for the Tigers heading into the 26th season. Perhaps that's why new coach Lane Kiffin spent some time pumping the brakes on the hype. Now, that was, of course, the press conference we have posted here on the channel. We have a lot of work to do, Kiffin said in the first practice. I said the first day that we got here now that we're in the practice format. Things don't happen overnight. It takes a lot of work to get the program to an elite performing program level. We're making some first steps, but there's a ton of work to do. Kiffin preaching patience, but will the congregation practice? That's given what's transpired from this offseason. Will that be the case? The Tigers poached Kiffin from Ole Miss, handing him a contract worth $13 million annually before incentives, while also paying out the playoff bonuses from his old contract with the Rebels. On top of that, the Portal King landed the top transfer portal class in the country while paying a pretty penny to do so. Sources told CBS Sports in January that LSU is spending somewhere around 40 to 50 million for its 2026 roster. Could that be Brian Kelly, who dropped? Could he be a source? Because he mentioned that. He said it was more than 40 million. Between the coach and the roster, LSU may be spending upwards of 60 million, and that's before the salary pool for assistant coaches. That money can buy a lot of things, but patience isn't one of them, especially not in Baton Rouge. And he is so right. Kiffin steered away from potentially scary expectations. On paper, the Tigers have a loaded roster going into spring practice. That's not shocking given the team's portal haul, including three five-star transfers: Sam Levitt, Jordan Seaton, and Prince Will. LSU has 8 best odds to win a national championship per FanDuel. Shout out to FanDuel. Playoff seems attainable in Kiffin's first season. However, Kiffin doesn't want to place any outcome-based expectations on his squad, opting for a process-based goals instead. I think expectations can be really scary, so we don't really look at that way. We don't have goals, he said. We need to have this many wins or playoffs. We don't talk that way because it's outcome-based and not process-based. A lot of things are determined by things out of your control. Kiffin acknowledged that LSU has a lot of talent throughout the roster, but added that those individual pieces are still a long way from being a really good team. So what does Kiffin want to achieve in his first year on the job? The answer is simple: progress. I don't say, hey, this is what we need to do in year one, said Kiffin, because it doesn't matter. It's time. It's much more about the day-to-day process and trying to improve our players and get them to a higher level. Kiffin bemoans weakened depth. The transfer portal has wreaked havoc on the depth charts of teams around the country. Not even the elite programs like LSU are immune. Kiffin said the Tigers roster turnovers was really high, which has become the new norm. He also highlighted the downside of no longer having a spring transfer portal window. Kiffin said going into 2 windows to 1, while good for college football at large, can create depth concerns with coaches locked into rosters between now and the start of the season. I know that everybody thinks the elimination of the spring window is such a great part, but it is different that way. Now you have what you have. You can't anymore say, well, this guy isn't playing that well, so we'll go get another guy at that spot. This is it. There's nowhere to go. There's a good and a bad to it. You probably be hard pressed to find anyone at another program who has sympathy for LSU's weakened depth, and Kiffin admitted that's just the new reality. When so much money gets pumped into the stars at the top of the roster, we have to make sacrifices further down the depth chart, similar to how the NFL operates. You invest so much money into the players' positions like the NFL, and your rosters aren't as deep. That's just the system that's been created by the NIL and the transfer portal. Dynasties that you used to see, I don't think they're going to take place as far as the dominant dynasty teams, because you can't make a roster that deep because they won't stay. If they're not playing enough, they will not stay. When LSU has invested tens of millions into its football program, in a matter of months, people will want to see immediate results. Despite all the roster turnover and the suboptimal depth, Kiffin and the Tigers won't have many excuses if they fail short of completing an SEC title and a college football playoff. Now, listen, there's a lot to unpack there in this particular article for CBS. They mention a lot of truthful statements and commentaries, to be quite honest and real with you, about our Tigers. Now, what's interesting about this article is the fact that he's right about the depth, the NIL, all this kind of stuff. The elimination of spring portal is very real and true. But that's the money makes it put pressure on it. It's good for Coach Kiffin to take the pressure off and say, hey, man, we got a process here that we have to build and we have to get going. Now, how easy is it for them to pick up Lane Kiffin's system, his offensive system, and move it? If you watch some of the spring practices, you can see the uptick in tempo. That's one of the main things about Coach Kiffin's offense. They move at a certain rate and pace that tire the defense, right? And puts pressure on the ops to make the proper adjustments, right? So this is one of the caveats of having Lane Kiffin's system. It's a wide open system that knows how to attack weaknesses. They have the pieces in place. Sam Levitt is working his way back from injury, who hopefully will be ready for August. We have running back depth. We have wide receiver depth. We have tight end depth. We have an offensive line depth that basically was pieced together. And you had 40 guys leaving, and then 45, 50 something people being transferred in across the team as a new staff assemble. So, a lot of money spent on Lane Kiffin and his assistants and on this team. The expectation going into next year is simple. That means get the team into the playoffs. That's what it comes down to. Winning, $90-something million. Yes, the pressure is going to be on Lane Kiffin, and I ain't gonna say he's not bothered about it, but he knew what it would be when he took the money. And I think that's the thing, the craziness about Lane Kiffin. Not saying he's insane for taking the job, but he's awakened by the task of doing this. He never had a national championship as a head coach. He was a part of other teams that were, but he never had a championship as a head coach. And to have access to LSU's resources to be able to do what he does, I just look at Lane Kiffin. I'm not saying that he's not bothered by that, but you can see that it is got his blood pumping and flowing. He's up for the challenge of doing it. And you have the coach, the defensive coaching staff, you have the resources there. Special teams is something new too there, lifting that up. So it's an excitement generated not just from the coach, because you can see his energy, how he's with these interviews, he's not dead and all, melancholy. You can see that the excitement of the job has really got him flowing and kind of waking him up. Some what you've seen at Ole Miss and all this kind of stuff. It's a new level that he has to rise up and I can look at the man and see that he's up for the challenge. You can see how he's been recruiting in the 2027 class before the spring practices start. I've seen some of the spring footage for the team, and man, listen, you could just be totally excited about the season going forward. And I know this is the team that he's assembled is not a 7-5 team like we've seen from the past. We know that this team is going to throw the ball, they're going to run the ball, they're going to play defense. This team overall is better than what we had last year, from the coach on down to the team. The talent is here. They use the resources of the NIL and they spent wisely. And I just give them all the credit in the world for doing that, despite people kind of landing on them and saying vicious stuff about the team. But when you start winning, all of these naysayers will disappear into the wind like phantoms at dawn. Watch and see. We've seen it all before. So LSU is moving. We're going to keep an eye on this spring practice. I'll keep a continual broadcast of that as well.